which is Tales of the Valiant in their Game Master's Guide. Of course, funded. Obviously funded. No question. Wasn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it funded in the first 30 minutes of the Kickstarter? Is that recollection correct?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, they're in that tier of Kickstarter creators where they can just snap their fingers or flip a switch and just the money appears, which is great. It's like, it's nice work if you can get it kind of situation. But, Hit Point Press, Kobold Press, all of those sort of higher tier third-party publishers, it's never shocking when something like this happens. So, we've talked a lot over the last month or so about Tales of the Valiant, and last episode we talked about that screed about the end of the tabletop golden age and how TOV was going to be the last like $1 million or however much it made Kickstarter for tabletop, right? But
I think he was making that argument for MCDM Flea Mortals.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
You're correct. Before you get corrected in the comments.
Yeah, you are correct. You are correct. I remember that now. But obviously, we knew when the TOV Game Master's Guide came out, it was going to get funded. So I'm looking at it right now, and the Kickstarter doesn't end until February 16th. So when this comes out, you've essentially got 2 full work weeks to go in there and back it. But right now, it's at almost $345,000 of the $50,000 goal. And we know those goals are artificially set to make it look like they've done like way more and everything. But regardless, so it's funded, it's happening. But we can stop me if you've heard this before, but we come back to sort of my main question of, what is the point? What is the differentiator with Tales of the Valiant? And what they're really pushing on the Kickstarter now and in their preview PDF is their monster crafting system. And it's interesting because when I saw that they had a preview PDF, because I haven't backed the Kickstarter yet / don't know if I will, but in their public updates on it, they've got a preview of chapter 2 that is not final, and then they've got a link to the preview PDF. And I was expecting a little bit more from the preview PDF. It ended up just being a lot of marketing material, which I'm not saying in a way to fault anybody at all, because if I were doing something like this, I'd do it exactly the same way. But it's marketing material, it's the credits, it's a snapshot of what the table of contents is going to look like, and then it just jumps into chapter 8, the Homebrewer's Toolbox. And it says, this chapter covers a suite of tools to customize existing mechanics or handcraft entirely new options for Tales of the Valiant or 5th edition games, whether you want to design new spells, magic items, character options, or monsters. This toolbox provides you with direct guidance and actionable steps to make exactly what you need. And they're really leaning on the monstercraft aspect of this in the preview that they've released. And they're also talking a lot about it on the Kickstarter. Like, for example, okay, well, here's a stat block for a mermaid, but here's how to make it into a skeleton mermaid. And it's hybridizing and using templates and things like that to make that work. But I, like, you admittedly understand the monstercraft aspect of things a little bit better than I do.
Well, so what I was hoping for, because you sent me the link and you were like, oh, they released an excerpt from the DMG or the GMG as they're calling it. And it's about monster crafting. And I was like, ooh, show me the way. I like me some Kobold Press monsters. Check it out. And literally it's, okay, so let's say that you've got a giant ape, okay? And you want to make that giant ape into a giant ape skeleton. Here's how you do that. And I'm like, this is like 101 level stuff. I was hoping for, here's a little bit of a look into the creative process that Kobold Press uses for building monsters in the first place. Like, here's how we gauge like what special abilities to give it, what kind of environment to put it in, those sorts of things. Like the more narrative focused stuff. And instead I get, so, all right, so it's going to be a skeleton. So it's going to be weak to bludgeoning damage, but resistant to piercing damage. Isn't that interesting? And it's like, no, it's not interesting. Stop.
Well, you got to figure the market that they're going for on this, because you're approaching it as though they're trying to create sort of a higher level version of the DMG for themselves, right? And really what they're trying to do is take the market share from Wizards of people just getting into things. They want those new players, and that's why they're going basic with it, which again, to me, is confusing from a business perspective because there's no differentiator. It's just 5e with another coat of paint on it. I would like to see that kind of thing too. I would like to see a Game Master's Guide that really sort of is under the hood on things rather than being simplistic about it. And I want to be clear, and I've tried to make this point a number of times when we've been talking about this kind of thing, so I don't think I'm misunderstood when I say it, but I just want to be clear about it, is this is high quality work. Tales of the Valiant is no slouch in terms of the writing, editing, production quality that they're putting into it. My main issue is just sort of that meta business aspect of it, of like, what's the differentiator? Because like it's become just a recurring theme to keep going back to the OGL and how that completely changed third parties' plans for these things. So I understand this probably isn't exactly what they had planned for, but now I continue to just struggle with whether or not I should invest in this, because I'm not seeing what the difference is, especially like in that passage when it calls out specifically like, hey, this is good for if you want to do stuff with Tales of the Valiant or 5th edition games.
Well, I think my issue is less that the content is bad, because the content is fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the content. My issue is that if I wanted a 101 on how to turn a beast type creature into an undead type creature, a skeleton specifically, I can find 1.5 million Reddit posts, forum posts, YouTube videos, guides, probably inside Kobold Press's blog. Like that data is out there and very easily accessible by anyone with access to the internet. What's tougher is the more meta level stuff where it's like, when you are homebrewing a creature, think about why you're homebrewing a creature. And I guess part of the reason I'm feeling as uppity about it as I am is because we literally just did a panel on homebrewing at MagFest. And I feel like we tried to bring a lot of concepts and ideas to it to help people understand homebrewing at a core level, as opposed to being like, well, here's a way that you could turn an ape into a skeleton ape. Because at the end of the day, how to turn an ape into a skeleton ape doesn't help me that much. It's one skill that I can use, I guess, over and over again. My expectation, as I've said many times when we talk about Tales of the Valiant, is that everything that I'm complaining about is because I'm only seeing the surface level stuff that they're releasing as previews. The stuff that was really easy for them to write early, the stuff that does not take a lot of balance and editing and re-editing and then finishing and then polishing. That this is like the very easy base level things, and that the book itself will have just mind-blowing revelations in it. But my problem is I'm not seeing any of that. I've seen none of it.
Well, let's take a look, because yesterday on the Kickstarter, they posted a new update, and I'll get into that because the one we were going to talk about was the Chapter 2 preview, but they posted another one yesterday, and it was basically an ad for the GMG, and it links to Kobold Press's website, and they've got an article up there, but it's sort of essentially a press release. And GMs need all the help they can get. That's the inspiration for the Game Master's Guide. Do you have everything you need to play in the Player's Guide and the Monster Vault? Of course, they're the core Tales of the Valiant books. That's why the GMG is the tool for advanced game experiences. One-stop shop for GMs to take their table experience beyond basic games. Okay, parallel with the DMG. Let's pull back the curtain and talk about how the Game Master's Guide will be the handiest tool on your shelf. Expect a thorough, detailed, specific guidance on how to become a better GM with the GMG. It addresses all aspects of GMing process, from out-of-the-game player relationships to how to prepare session notes. Now, if that's accurate, then that is an improvement over the DMG.
That is a vast improvement over the DMG, because we've been doing panels for years now where the very first thing we say is you're going to have to talk to your problem players. You're going to have to sit them down and reason with them like adults.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's something people just don't want to do because people naturally don't like conflict. Next paragraph. Take your original worlds and ideas into your own hands with a complete suite of homebrew tools that allow you to customize or create your own mechanics. From monsters to magic items, even PC options. The GMG even helps you with the math. Again, important if true, because that is an improvement over what's in the DMG.
It would be a huge improvement over the DMG.
Yeah, because the DMG doesn't have any homebrewing tools.
No, the closest the DMG has to homebrewing tools is you won't find everything that you want to run inside this book.
Right.
Here are the basics of how we create these things so that you can create your own. Mm-hmm. And it is helpful, but it's not, if this is accurate and what they come out with really does include all of that, and it not like to death, but with some comprehensive nature to it, that could be incredible. That could be amazing.
Mm-hmm. And then it says, keep your players invested with advanced rules and mechanics and raise the stakes or present new obstacles for combat, exploration, and social encounters. That's sort of a puffery sentence there. It's not really specific on anything. And let's not forget massive reference tables and tools to help you run games with ease, like general use random encounter tables, NPC generators, or expanded crafting options. I think that's a level up over the DMG as well. Again, important if true, because I've always felt like the DMG needed more utility tables like that. Like especially for things like NPC generation and crafting options as well. So again, that's great. So if these things, if even just the two paragraphs that we really latched onto there are true, then the GMG becomes a very valuable tool for not just new players, but experienced ones as well. Because like, think how many times we've been forced to just sort of wing something, and it's fine because we know how, because we have the experience to do it. But if there were tables or other guidance that I could quickly flip to, that would be nice too. So I wouldn't complain about that. So I've been going back and forth on this a lot because talking about how it seems less new and less helpful, I want to talk about the chapter 2 preview that is on the Kickstarter, and it is essentially a preview of the second chapter, and they're saying, oh well, this isn't final or anything like that, so don't take it as gospel or anything. But you read through it, and it's about building campaigns and themes and settings and stuff like that. It's very rote, very basic sort of like storytelling, adventure building kind of stuff. Like, oh, we'll have long-term antagonists and allies. Build a meta plot for your campaign so you can have a narrative through line that people can start picking up clues on. And to me, that feels very much like ground zero type of stuff. But again, it depends on the market that they're going for, Well,
I will point out, though it feels very ground zero to us, that is stuff that's not in the DMG. True. The DMG doesn't really talk about world building that much at all because they assume you're just going to play inside the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I can't really argue with that. It's a very short excerpt of the chapter 2, but I guess now that you've said that, I'm sort of changing my opinion a little bit because you're right. Maybe my actual opinion is for experienced GMs, there's no value here in the GMG, but for new GMs, there's a lot of utility over the DMG on this. So, I'm not going to say that I have been too harsh in my judgment, because I feel like I've been equivocating a hell of a lot as we've been talking about this and really giving a lot of benefit of the doubt. But maybe that's just a perspective I hadn't considered on it. And I think that's fair. So I think I've probably talked myself into backing this at this point. Just to get a hold of it so I can really sort of fully understand it when it comes out.
Right.
And feel like I'm being fair to it. Maybe Cobalt Press, if you want to send us a review copy when this gets into shape, That would be pretty swell too. But yeah, if we'll keep talking about this more as more stuff comes out, because there's still about 3 weeks left in the Kickstarter as we're recording this, and there are going to be a lot more updates on it and everything. And then once that's over, we're going to start seeing the probably quick trickle of new information, because they're working on the book now, so stuff's gonna start coming out relatively quickly about this. So we'll keep on this, and as soon as I can get a copy of it, we'll get a copy of it and hopefully talk about it. Any closing thoughts for you on the GMG?
I will reiterate, I am not going, oh, well, this is too basic, this is too minimal. I want to see something more advanced so that it can be a differentiator from the stuff that D&D has already published, that a lot of us already have, because that's how you pull people to your product instead of someone else's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And maybe it builds a new foundation for people to get started in the hobby.
Yeah.
And maybe their play is just very long-term on this, which is valid, because it's not like D&D is going anywhere. So you're not going to be able to be an instant disruptor for them.
No.
Yeah.
This isn't Silicon Valley in the 90s.
Tales of the Valiant is the pets.com of tabletop games.